Well, thank you everybody for coming. We're excited to be with you today. And my name is Andrew Bartlett, like she said, my wife Hannah. And yeah, we're excited to talk to you guys about how to do work you love without starving. Before we get started though, I just want, we're trying to get a read on kind of where people are at with stuff. How many of you guys are currently in film full time? All right, couple folks. Okay. How many of you are curious about what it would look like to be in film full time? Is that okay? We got some good.
Came to the right session.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pray really quick, and then we will jump in. Thank you, Lord, so much for this opportunity that we have to be here at the Christian Worldview Film Festival. I thank you for each and every one of the folks here. Pray to give me and Hannah wisdom to be able to share what we've been given over the years, and also that it would just be beneficial and helpful, and just give us, just wisdom as we present. In Jesus' name, amen. All righty, so a little bit intro to us. So we run a creative agency, Bartlett Idea Company, and so we do video, branding, websites, social media content for clients. We also run another company called Motion University, so we do a lot of training, and really passionate about helping people learn how to do film as a career, not just a hobby. And specifically, we really focus a lot in the promotional filmmaking space. And so what we're going to be sharing today is kind of based on our journey in terms of how we got to where we are today. And we're going to be kind of focusing on, it's based around our story, but the things that we're going to be sharing will be beneficial to really whichever path you end up taking. Hopefully, you'll have some takeaways that can be helpful. So for fun, just context, we will show a little bit of just a quick demo reel of some of our film work, and just for context. Sometimes it's nice, who the heck are these people? It's helpful. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so how many people here have heard the term a starving artist? Most people, it's a pretty common term. How would you define that? How would you define what is a starving artist?
An individual who is working towards success but has not yet reached it. Basically, they have to just work paycheck to paycheck and subsidize themselves and try and live.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's I think there's kind of almost like a, we think it can almost there's a romanticized version kind of that, the starving artist. It's not always so romantic when you're in the middle of it. So yeah, no, that's great. I think for a lot of us as artists, at least I know it's true definitely for me, we don't really care about money oftentimes, and so because of that, we're not necessarily, it's not our purpose in life. We love telling stories, we love creating things, and so if we could do that without having to, make money and without having to pay bills or buy groceries, we'd be incredibly happy, I think, for a lot of us. The problem is that we do need money, because not only we need it just to live, but we also need it to be able to do the creative projects that we want to do, because money is fuel for our creativity. Essentially, if you're worrying about paying the bills every day, that's a section of your brain that can't be creative to do the things that you love. So I've been full-time in this business now for 10 years. This is my 10th year. And it's been sad to see how many passionate filmmakers, they have a dream of creating their first feature film or working on set or doing those types of things. They end up burning out and having to just go career pivot, go do something completely different, especially when they want to get married or, have kids, that kind of stuff. You can't be a starving artist and provide for a family oftentimes, because our calling is to provide for our family first, and so we should never compromise that. But what we're here to tell you is that you don't have to be a starving artist, and it doesn't mean that you can't still do work that you love and that you're passionate about.
Yeah, so just a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to take you along on a journey. We're going to share with you our story and how we're able to make a living doing what we love, as well as some key pillars to build a career. First, we're going to talk about the mindset shift. So we'll have 4 key mindset shifts. To start on the journey, you need to be heading in the right direction. So in this first section, we're going to be helping you understand the mindset that you need to be successful in the filmmaking journey. In the second part, now that you have a direction, the next thing is a map. So what we're going to be talking about is the skills, the tools, and the practical things that we've found to be effective to allow us to continue to do creative work full-time. And I think you're going to be surprised with how practical this really can be. So let's jump in.
Awesome. All right. So part 1 is, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story, just because it's helpful to know where we came from. So the year was 2011. Myself, like a lot of you, I grew up making backyard videos, stop motion videos, and in 2011 I just made my first official short film, and the bug had absolutely bitten me. I knew that filmmaking is what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I wanted to be a storyteller. I wanted to be able to just recreate that feeling that I had when I watched Narnia or Lord of the Rings. It's just that that's what I wanted to be that storyteller. But there was a problem. I didn't know how to get there. So fast forward to 1 second, hit the wrong button. I haven't used my phone as a remote before. Try this. To 2014. So in 2014, Hannah and I, we were both interested in trying to learn how to be filmmakers. And we were just friends at the time. We're married now, but we had this idea, what if we could get together a group of other people like us who were also like aspiring filmmakers but really had no idea how to do it, and put together an event where we could hire professionals who knew what they were doing, bring them in and help us work on a project and to learn. And so it turns out running an event like that is a lot of work, a lot more work than I thought it would be. But one of the things that we had done is to make a project in that short amount of time. We realized we could do a short commercial project because it would allow us to kind of get experience doing a shorter project. It would work best in that kind of format. And it turned out it was really a completely life-changing experience for me. Being able to it was kind of the first time too where you have that idea in your head where you want it to look like, and so much of the time it doesn't turn out like you hoped. And this was the first time for me that an idea I had in my head came out and looked like what I wanted it to be. And so anyway, that project actually went on to go win Best Promotional Film at the 2015 Christian Worldview Film Festival. And so it was not due credit to me. John Clay was kind of my mentor and helped us. It was one of the teachers, so it was really his doing. But really, it really opened my eyes just how powerful and incredibly rewarding commercial work could be. Not only was I getting paid to do what I loved, but I had the freedom to experiment with new things, all without really I didn't have to drain my bank account to do it. I was getting paid to do it. So it had never really occurred to me that doing films for businesses, people paying me to do it, could be so incredibly creative. Again, the stigma is often that you kind of have to sell your soul to be paid to do work.
Right. Well, and I feel like so many of us had the idea that we're going to make short films, eventually make a feature film, someday get noticed enough to make something super wildly successful. But the reality is that path is, the chances of that is no better than someone who's into football getting into the NFL. But I promise we're not here to dash your dreams. We're here to help you be realistic and honestly just to help you have the best shot that you can at accomplishing your dream. So what we're suggesting is a different path, a path that is well-worn from thousands of others, but for some reason not a lot of people talk about it. It's not as flashy or as cool to start, but the incredible thing is it can often lead you to being able to be successful in film full-time. A lot of Christian filmmakers, even a lot of the guys here who have directed feature films, the Kendricks, the Irwins, Brett
Yeah.
Varvel, all these people, a lot of them, they started in commercial work. They did weddings, they did church media, they did a lot of short projects over and over and over for 20 years, for however long, until they ended up going on to make feature films. So our goal in this workshop is to really give you a key to another door. Let's lay the foundation first. There's a lot of misconceptions about creativity and building a career in film. So we're going to start with the key mindset shifts. And number one, serve others with your creativity. I feel like in our world today, creativity is often just looked at as a form of self-expression, a way to share a piece of yourself with the world. And there's certainly that's a part of it, right? As creatives, we want to share what's in our minds and what we have. That is one of the attributes of God. He is our creator. He created. So that's a good thing. But that's only part of the story. God gave us the gift of creativity so we could use it for others, to serve others. Creativity doesn't flourish when it's just self-centered. We've all seen movies made that no one asked for, and it was only a cash grab on the part of the studio. But when we seek out what the people and the audience want made, that's when the magic happens. So what's one way that we can know what people want? What people are willing to pay for is a judge of what they really want. So what does that look like practically? If you want to have a long-term, sustainable career, find the overlap between what you're passionate about and what people need or want you to create. That's where the magic happens.
Yeah, so again, that's all sort of abstract, right, in one part of it, but so I'll give you a concrete example. So yeah, little graph there, pretty straightforward, right? Passion and need, the magic is when you can find an overlap between something you're passionate about, something people need and are willing to pay for. So practical example, let's see, I keep hitting the wrong button. So let's see, serve others, let's see here. Yeah, okay, so practical example, right? So my brothers and I, we made all kinds of, shoot 'em up, blow 'em up little films. I always wanted to be able to make real action films. That was something I always wanted to do. But trying to create an action film that's any good is incredibly expensive, and there's no way I would be able to go out and create a feature film that's any good without any experience under my belt. But I was able to find a really cool intersection between my passion for action films and an actual need, and that was creating law enforcement recruiting films. When I think, yeah, you can see an example of something that you saw that in the demo reel. Not only have I been able to direct a car chase, film SWAT team rescues, use helicopters and motorcycles and all kinds of crazy stuff that I get paid to do it. When you find that intersection between your passion and need, the place where you can provide true value while using the skills and passion that God has given you, that's where beautiful things can happen. And also oftentimes those kind of limitations, right, where you're kind of having to create a project with a specific goal or purpose, that is really helpful boundaries for your creativity, and that way it allows your creativity to flow more freely. Oftentimes when there's no boundaries, then you could do anything and therefore you do nothing. And so having a client, having those kind of like laid out principles that you need to try to hit really helps you be able to be more creative. It's kind of like creating, we always think we want to think outside the box, but you need to figure out, probably a more accurate statement is you need to be thinking in the right box and figure out what size that box needs to be. There's also, I feel like, and we kind of touched on this earlier, a common misconception that commercial work and promotional films are just boring talking head videos. But the truth is you can create compelling, story-driven videos in any format. And a lot of our projects, what we've done is we try to incorporate a narrative element to every film. So whether that's a brand film for a company or if it's a product film, you can also weave a narrative story into it. So you're using all of the same storytelling skills that you would to do a feature or a short film, but imbuing them into kind of a business context. And that way it's something valuable that people want, and therefore they're willing to pay you for it. Short films, as fun as they are to make, have basically no commercial value whatsoever. They will only cost you money. But being able to find another thing is like partnering with ministries and organizations. So we recently, and it's actually in the festival this year, we were hired by a seminary to create a short film that was sort of like a branded content piece for them. And so we hadn't really done many short films, but we got to do a cool short film, only 3 minutes, which is a tricky 3.5 minutes, something like that. But we were able to just do that as a narrative project and get paid to do it. So it was pretty incredible. So that's kind of the section on serving others with your creativity. The next thing that we're going to talk about is hard work beats talent. Yes.
I had an 80.
You're good.
And your thing is so awesome. I've just been watching it.
Yeah, you're good.
You said, did I miss what does work? You said short films.
Yes, right. So if you could call it commercial work. So the question was, short films, not commercially viable, really, they're great for practice, but not a strategy. The thing that does work and kind of what we're talking about is finding ways where your passion, the creative thing you want to do, intersects with something somebody needs. So in this case, a promotional film could be for a ministry or organization. You could even be making a short film for a ministry or organization that touches on a subject that's their ministry is about. That's kind of what we're talking about is commercial work, promotional work is kind of the general category.
Were there real experiences recently?
Yeah, so what you saw with the law enforcement stuff, that was completely staged. Yeah, we staged all that stuff. So it's a lot of fun. You get to play with toys that I have no business being able to afford. So, but yeah, great question, great clarification. So hard work beats talent. So I'm sure you've all experienced it. There's times when being creative just feels effortless. The juice is just flowing. The ideas are just a dime a dozen. But then there's also times where it's just a brick wall, and it's just not fun anymore. But being a professional and being able to get paid to do what you love does mean being able to deliver whenever you need to, not just when you feel like it, when ideas come easily. And most of the other time, when we see others, they seem to just succeed so effortlessly. We're just seeing, the tip of the iceberg of the effort that they put in. We're not seeing the years of hard work they put in to get where they are. And it's kind of like the old saying, an overnight success is 50 years in the making. So true, robust creativity is a developed and honed skill. Being an artist requires hard work, and talent is built through practice and persistence. And that's good news for us. I'm not somebody who just can be, some people, they just, they seem they can be good at anything without even trying. That's not me. I have to work like 3 times as hard as everyone else, it seems like. But it's good news because that means it's something we can all do. So creativity is not just something that's just inborn, you have it or you don't. Most of the time, it's something that has to be developed, and that's developed through repetition. So doing that, building processes is another good aspect of creativity. A lot of times we think it's so abstract of like, sometimes I feel creative, sometimes I don't. But you can actually start to build processes around when do I feel most creative? What are the things that get me there? And you can start to make that more repeatable.
Which we will be talking more about tomorrow.
Yes.
Some of our creative and logistical process for creating a promotional film.
Yeah.
But really the best ways to grow your skills as a storyteller is to put in the reps. That's another reason why we encourage promotional filmmaking is it's often 2 to 3 minute films. It takes, maybe a couple months. If they're bigger projects, maybe 4 to 6 months. That's a lot shorter than the 2 to 4 years to make a feature. So you can be putting in the reps. You can fail and learn a whole lot faster. At least that's what we've done.
You fail smaller too,
Exactly.
Which is nice. You don't have a year-long project that you put all your eggs in that basket. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like through all of these promotional films we've done, we've learned so much, and we're still learning so much about story, about working with crew, about running a business, a lot of different things with that. So each project really has its own new challenges and stretches us. I think it also can be easy to forget, as far as the hard work goes, that there is boring technical work that comes with any project, any creative work.
Yeah.
For example, when we had to start our own business, we had to do the finances, we had to do the taxes, we had to do contracts, we had to worry about legal work, all that kind of thing. So that is another way, though, to gain valuable experience. That will be a huge help to your whole career. And you do have to do the boring to get to the creative and fun stuff. Whether it's a feature or short or whatever, no matter what, you still have to do that. So as the old saying goes, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. So number 3, you can impact others. I feel like there's often a myth that the only thing that can be impactful is feature films. Short films, promotional films, commercial work can be very impactful as well. Like we've seen it in work that we've done. So what's often easy to overlook is that you can glorify the Lord and have an impact on others through all types of creative work. Promotional films can make a difference, not just through the final product, but also in how you create it. The process that you do, how you treat people, how you treat your clients, how you treat your crew is a huge part of that. Your interactions can be a testimony, and you even have times where you may have an opportunity to present the gospel, be a witness to the clients, to the crew that you're working with. That's just a huge way that you can impact people while doing these promotional films. The content itself, though, can also be meaningful. We've had the privilege, like Andrew said, to work with the seminary to share their mission of training pastors. So we were able to do promotional films for them, and then the audience was able to see what they do and get inspired to join and become a pastor, go to seminary. So you could do a promotional film for a local pregnancy center or missionaries, make a difference for them. There's lots of ministries that could use that type of work. And even seemingly simple projects, like we've showcased truck drivers or manufacturing, that can support jobs, strengthen communities. Like there's so many ways that you can impact the community and others through the work you do. Also, impact isn't measured by format like we've talked about. A feature film could be mediocre with few viewers, or a short form content can reach a lot of people. So glorifying God isn't just about making faith-based films. It's about how you work, how you treat people, how you steward your resources. All of that can be a testimony and sharing the gospel to others as well. So we can honor God just as much in a commercial for a local bank as a feature film. The key is to serve others and put him first, no matter the size of the project. And that's what brings glory to him. So number 4, God is the one who opens doors. So I know we've talked a lot about the importance of hard work. And that is important. But at the end of the day, success is not just about effort. It's about effort in the right direction with help from the right person. As it says in Psalm 127, unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. You could be the hardest working person on the planet, but if God is not in what you're doing, you're bound to fail. We've had countless times throughout our career where we didn't know where our next project was coming from, or we had huge challenges we didn't know we'd be able to get through. We even had one time I can remember where we only had $80 in our business bank account while we were waiting for client payments to come in. So every time that we struggled with burnout, faced financial difficulty, couldn't find clients, all of those struggles are real.
Yeah.
God kept bringing along projects we needed just at the right time. It was so clear that he was saying, I have called you to do this. So, if we are called to do that, like he will be there for you. We would not be running the business we are today if it weren't for the Lord at work in our lives. So that's a huge part of all this as well.
And there was, there's a writer, director friend of mine, John Fornoff. Some of you, he's taught here many times. I was just with him a couple weeks ago, and he shared what I thought was a really incredible analogy for kind of this concept. And it's the concept of Godspeed. So you've probably seen, if you flew here, the moving walkways in airports, where you take one step on there is like 4 steps if you're just walking next to it. And so in a lot of ways, that's, walking without the moving walkway is kind of like you're trying to make progress on your own and your own strength. But when it's like trying to force something to happen, but we can try all we want and just make it nowhere. But when we're following what God wants for us, walking kind of in his path for us, you can make that one step equal 4. I feel like we've seen this, in the business context so many times where you're trying so hard to like get this connection or do this thing. And then you kind of just like, even recently having to kind of just reset and be like, God's in control. I need to be faithful. I need to do what is, the next steps in front of me, but I don't have to have that stress trying to force something to happen. And it seems like inevitably when I kind of like surrender that piece of that to him and be like, my business is his business, then so many times then something comes just completely out of the blue just to remind me that I have no control in my own destiny. So that's definitely, I think, a huge thing for all of us as we're striving to be able to do this full time, all of that. It's really the Lord that keeps us being able to do it. So that's kind of, a lot of that is very abstract, right? That's kind of like principles, guidelines, how to think about creativity, how to think about the hard work that's going to go into it. So this next section is a bit more practical, and this is something that's going to apply regardless. We've talked a lot in terms of what we do, the filmmaking side of doing commercial work, but this honestly, the same system is going to apply whatever type of work you want to get, whether it's acting, directing, writing, whatever it is. We're going to be talking with examples of the commercial space, but it's going to apply either way. So basically now we've talked about kind of that mindset and the map. We're going to try to give you some practical tools because knowing where you want to go is really important, but knowing how to get there is just as important. So John Clay, a mentor and good friend of mine and fellow teacher at Motion University, he coined the phrase do work, show work, network. And some of you all, we were talking about that earlier. It's a really helpful and succinct way to kind of break down how you can grow in your filmmaking journey.
So the first one, do work. Honestly, this one should go without saying, but the foundation to building a successful career is to do good work. I can't tell you how many people we've talked to who are struggling to get work, who are either not currently making any work or don't have quality projects to show in their portfolio. People will hire you for what they've seen you do. So if you want to get work, start doing the work you want more of. So do the work that you want to attract the people who like that type of work. So this applies, as Andrew said, no matter what career path you take. If you're pursuing becoming a gaffer, you need to be doing work, honing your skills, demonstrating you know what you're talking about. If you're wanting to get hired on at a business or a ministry to produce videos for them, having a body of work to show will speak volumes to them of what you could bring to the team. So to start, we've done this many times. That might mean doing work as volunteer or for free. But the more you do it, you can start charging better rates, and before long, you have a great portfolio to show to anybody who might want to work with you. And if you're struggling to find people to do this for, start with the people you know. I'm willing to bet that you each know at least 2 to 3 people at your church or in your community who could probably use a video for their business or their ministry or whatever. Maybe they can even cover expenses. The key is to knock it out of the park for them. Focus on their needs, not just on making something cool for your reel, and make them super happy. You may not gain any new work from them directly, but the connections and eyeballs that you gain through that project will be worth it. You could also ask them to refer you to other people. A lot of times we've found that when we do good work for somebody and they're really happy with how we treated them and how the project went, they will go and refer us to other people just because they're happy with the project. So the other thing I want to note here is that this does apply no matter where you're at in your filmmaking career. It's obviously super helpful up front when you're starting, but we're still implementing this principle in our line of work even after 10 years. So for example, we've been wanting to expand into the equipment manufacturing market, doing more promotional work for them. So we took some time to go shoot some free content for a snow removal company that Andrew's brother works for. We were able to use that footage to create some fun reels, some social content, show it to another interested client along with some other work that we had done, and get a meeting with them based off that work. So strategic free work that you're initiating, because sometimes people will, oh, can you do this for free for me? You don't have to say yes to all the people that are asking you, but if you're initiating it, it's the kind of work you want to be doing. It can be very instrumental to getting you more work down the road. We have another story that kind of talks about that.
Yeah, and again, it's about strategic free work. Just doing random work for free, well, it's great for some general experience. If you're wanting to get more clients, you need to also know what type of clients you want to go after. So there's a whole lot more we could go into that. But just for a practical story, like I mentioned earlier, after my first real commercial project and realizing kind of the power of producing projects for others and telling their stories, that kind of set us off on this incredible journey. And in 2015, I finally got to the point where I had enough work that I knew it was time to kind of go all in. So that was when I went full time. I was able to go full time with filmmaking, creative work. I'd done a ton of other jobs leading up to that point. I grew up on a farm, so obviously working on the farm. I was doing water deliveries for a company. I was doing like cleaning at a place, and my brother and I had started a lawn care business that was doing pretty well. So I was able to take that, set some money aside, and then was able to kind of had enough video work coming in. It was like, okay, it was very clear that it was time to make that transition. So 2016, we were kind of looking at like, man, how do we kind of grow and expand our company? One of the things that I thought would be really cool would be to work with law enforcement, as I talked about earlier. And so we heard about a film competition coming up, and so we thought, hey, this could be a really cool opportunity to make a project for free, and then we could enter that into the competition as well as have that as a portfolio piece for us to be able to show. So a little look at that project that we were doing.
Documentary.
It was a mini documentary, and yeah, so we reached out to the local PD in our city. I look much younger there. They had, let's see, yeah, they were gracious enough to allow us to have like a full day with 3 different officers to put together that film, and yeah, and it was a lot of fun, and that led them to asking us. So they loved the film afterwards. It wasn't great. We still were learning a lot at that point, but it was good enough that they really loved it. They could tell that we really took the time to get to know them and tell their story well, and so that led them to asking us to help them with other fun community outreach video projects. And then when it came time for them to look into, creating an actual recruiting film for their department, then they gave us a call. So all the projects up to that point were really low budget. But this time when they came to us for the recruiting film, they had a decent budget for that. And so we knew this was our shot to go all in and make it the best thing we possibly could. So yeah, we probably made 0 money on that project, even though we had a budget, but we knew that was going to be our calling card to others kind of in that space. And so when we completed and released that video, the response was actually pretty incredible. So much so that we got a call one day from a sheriff's department in Southern California, the 2nd largest sheriff's department in the state, asking us if we would come down there and create a film for them. And so yeah, and to this day, we've done several projects with them, some of the biggest ones that we've ever done. Biggest budgets have been with them. So we can trace all of that work and a ton of our other work all the way back to this video that we posted.
Even the one before, the documentary.
And yeah, the one, really. I mean, really that first documentary, doing that one for free. So that's hopefully at least a kind of a practical example. What we're talking about, doing work that then leads to other work. It's pretty simple. Yeah.
On that one that you did for free.
Yeah.
How did you transition from a teenager using
Yeah.
a store-bought
Yes.
camera
Yeah.
to have it looked like you had some professional
Mm-hmm.
equipment?
Yeah.
Did you rent that, or do you
Yeah.
know someone who has it, or how did that work?
Yeah, and that's a really great point. I think we touched on it a little bit later too, but basically from that point to that point, from being just a kid with a camera to being able to do some other stuff, was working with another professional. So basically being able to shadow them. In this case, it was through the Motion University on location thing of okay, we got some experience, and then renting
you did a lot
equipment.
of projects yourself too.
I did a lot. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
There wasn't just one project from here to here. It was probably 15 or something like that of me kind of putting in the reps. And that is a really good point. You don't have to own equipment. It's super easy to rent camera gear these days, and it's pretty inexpensive. Lens Rentals out of Nashville, they ship worldwide, or at least nationwide, and you select online, check out, here's the dates I need it, they ship it to you in a Pelican case, you use the gear, you put it back in the case, put it back in the box with the labels, ship it back to them when you're done, and it's a fraction of the cost of owning it, especially if you're not using it all the time. So that's a good way to get access to things that you would otherwise not have the money to be able to use. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question at least somewhat. Yeah, so that's, again, hopefully a practical example. So the next principle is show work, which I kind of already alluded to, right? Do work, which means having something to show, and then showing that work. And this point ties kind of directly to what we were saying about like the snowplow company, for example, where we went and did some free work, for my brother's company because we know we wanted to target kind of that clientele. If people don't know what you do, it's pretty unlikely that they're going to hire you. So people like to hire busy people. So showing consistency in the work that you're doing will keep reminding people of what you do and keeps kind of bringing you to the forefront of their mind. There's been a lot of cases where we'll post something on social media and then shortly after that, either like a new lead or somebody who maybe kind of was talking about something and kind of fell off, they see it back in their feed and they're like, oh yeah, I need to look at that. So that's been huge for us. And then it doesn't just mean showing your final products, but also, a massively underrated and unused tool is sharing the process behind your work as well. So documenting the process you use and showing kind of a look behind the scenes in addition to the final product is really huge. Because essentially by giving people a look behind the scenes and documenting your process, you build trust by showing that you have a repeatable process that you could use for them as well. It wasn't just a flash in the pan. You happen to do it right once, but you can show that you have a process whereby you can actually deliver. And again, I will reiterate, we're talking about this in terms of like the film side, but I know we're talking, audio engineers or writers, different things. The same, just, use those same principles and then just flip that to, if you want to, get into audio engineering for post. If you don't have any examples of that, it's hard for people to know that they could trust you to do it. So building that trust by doing a project, having something to show, and then showing your process, how you got there, shows that, again, it wasn't just a fluke, but you actually can do it consistently. An example of that was, this is a snippet from a behind the scenes video that we put together on social media. And we had been posting a kind of a series of stuff showcasing how we approach lighting, in this case, stainless steel equipment. Very niche, but it's very hard to light and shoot stainless steel, as it turns out, and Lexan and plexiglass. And so this video, and along with some other stuff, was something that somebody that we didn't even know was following our page saw it, and then they invited us to come down to New Mexico, and we shot a big project for them because they did a similar, they make equipment in a different thing, but it's all stainless steel equipment. And they had thought about doing it themselves, just in-house, but then they saw how technical it is to light it, and they saw that we had a really good process for doing it. And so they reached out to us and said, we can tell you know what you're doing, we want to hire you. So yeah, I think that's just a good, hopefully helpful illustration on that point as well.
And our last one is network. So we have about 5 more minutes. We want to leave time for questions at the end, but we're going to get through the last few things here. So for network, this is the final pillar to the 3 things: do work, show work, network. It has been said that your network is your net worth, and that can be so true. Learning how to properly network with others is a hugely important skill and pays off well in the end. Network and make connections with people that you want to work with others who are working with the types of people you want to work with, and be in the places your customers are. So go to trade shows, engage with people on social media and online. Sometimes it's the people or connections that you least expect that lead to something down the road. So this could be networking at a place like this, where you're meeting other fellow directors and crew members and other people, or going to a place where your clientele that you want to work with might be. The most important thing to remember is don't expect to necessarily get work right away. Seek to truly be a friend. Again, this goes back to serving. Free from the motivation of getting work. Be a genuine listener. Seek to add value to the other person through every conversation that you have. Seek to understand what they do, why they do it, maybe the struggles that they've been facing. And if you happen to have an answer to their problem, maybe a client who said, oh, I wish I had a video, whatever, you can maybe provide a solution for that. But relationships are really the long game. In our experience, they take around 3 years to become an actual client. By the time you've, networked with somebody, you've met them, you've built that relationship, it often, on average, can take about 3 years. This project Andrew was just talking about, somebody he met 8 years ago. So
somebody I met here 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
Who wasn't even in the job where he was, and then 8 years later ended up getting his job somewhere else.
Yeah.
So,
it can take years to for those relationships. And sometimes it can be shorter. Sometimes it can be a few months. You meet somebody, you do a project. But just don't have that expectation. Remember that relationships are the long game. The other part that I want to mention here is that it's so important to find mentors. I can't stress enough how important this fact is. People who are further along than you that you can learn from, and have them give feedback on your work. We do this with all of our projects all the time, is we send projects to people that we trust and say, hey, give us feedback. Cut it down if you need to. Tell us what we need to change, you know? So there's really no need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of times people who have been there before you can help you grow so much faster. I know, as Andrew mentioned earlier, John Clay was this to Andrew. Like, we would not be where we are today without his mentorship and advice and really helping us to work through a lot of things.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so much more detail. We could go in on every single one of those points. Unfortunately, we only have an hour, so hopefully we're able to give you at least a good rundown on some of these principles. We're more than happy to talk more in a minute in Q&A, but I do want to just recap and hopefully kind of give you a summary of some of these points, just so you can hopefully take it away and retain some of that information. So first of all, serve others with your creativity. When you shift your mindset from what do I want to make to what do people need that I can create, you unlock a whole new world of opportunities. Creativity thrives when it's used to solve problems, tell important stories, and bring value to others. Second, hard work beats talent. Creativity isn't magic. It's a skill you develop through repetition, learning, and persistence. Doing great work requires discipline, pushing through creative roadblocks, and being willing to grow. The most successful creatives aren't waiting for inspiration. They're putting in the reps. Third, you can impact others through promotional work. Glorifying God is not just about the final product, but also about how you interact with clients, crew, and the people you meet along the way. And fourth, remember, God is the one who opens doors. You can work as hard as you want, but the real success comes when you align with your work with His purpose. When you're walking in His plan, He can take you further than you ever could on your own.
And then the practical section, Do Work, Show Work, Network. With Do Work, remember, start now. Even if it's unpaid, find ways to practice, create, and build a portfolio. Show Work, let people see what you do. Share your process, your projects, your growth. This will lead, visibility leads to opportunities. And Network, build relationships. People hire people they know and trust. That is so important. People hire people they know and trust. So invest in connections, not just projects. At the end of the day, there's more than one path to success. The traditional make short films, get discovered, direct a feature is a long shot. But there's a well-worn path of filmmakers who have been thriving, they've built thriving careers really by serving businesses, by serving ministries and organizations, creating work that's both impactful and fulfilling as a creative. You don't have to be a starving artist. The idea that filmmaking is only possible if you sacrifice financial stability isn't true. You can do meaningful, creative work while making a living. You just have to take a different approach.
So really quick before we get to some Q&A, we do have another session tomorrow, which is just jumping in nitty-gritty of how we make award-winning promotional films start to finish. So it's going to be same time, same place tomorrow. So it's a couple opportunities. One other thing that I'll just plug real quick is, like I said, John Clay and I, we put together a course and a series of courses also covering a lot of these subjects and going a lot more in depth, especially on kind of the career building side and how to do promotional films. We do a coached version of that we're going to be doing later this year. So if you want to have us coach you through making a film in 8 weeks, then that is an opportunity for you. That's motionuniversity.org if you're interested. But yeah, otherwise, questions. All right, we got a bunch. This is great. I think I'll take you first.
How about a screenwriter? How can a screenwriter from Podakville fly
Yeah.
the country
Yeah.
serve others with that kind of talent?
Repeat the
Yeah.
question.
So yeah, the question was for screenwriters, how would you apply these questions? Especially you're not in a big city, you know, have a lot of network. I would say it's the same Do Work, Show Work network. So if we just interpret that really quick, for a screenwriter, you need to have a screenplay or ideally you need to be writing all the time. You need to putting in those reps. I think George Escobar says that your 10th screenplay will probably be a good one. But you have to write all 9 first. So doing the work, that's important. The other thing with that is do work that you can show. I was just talking to a friend who is a writer trying to do screenwriting, and my recommendation to him was show that you can write. Now it's hard with screenplays because IP and stuff, you don't want to necessarily put that out there publicly because that gets tricky. But what if, and again, this is just one of many ideas, you put together write a daily a story that happens in daily episodes, that's the length of an Instagram story description. Use AI to make a cover art for that and post every single day and create a story in that format. Doing something where that kind of speaks to the show your work, show that you're doing work, show that you have lessons you're learning, share about what you're learning about writing. Online, especially if you're in a small area, online is probably going to be your biggest place to be. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, those types of things. That would probably be the show work piece. And then in terms of networking, you're here, which is a huge, that's a great event. And there's NRB, there's a lot of other writing conferences and stuff like that. So that's, I guess, in a nutshell, what I would say. Does that kind of answer your question? Okay, perfect. Yes. One of y'all. Yeah, go ahead.
How does prayer play into your process?
Yes, that's a great question. So how does prayer play into the process? Do you want to tackle that one?
Well, I feel like that's something that has played a part in our process and that we're still learning and working on. Okay, how can we implement this more? I've been really encouraged by like Stephen Kendrick's session and all those.
Yeah.
But I feel like that does play a part in our process because God, He cares about business. He cares about promotional films.
Yeah.
And we pray about our company. We pray about projects that we're going to work on. Sometimes while we're on set, we'll pray at the beginning of the day before we go start shooting, all of those different things, and just trusting Him with that and praying about that He'll bring the right clients along or He'll shut doors if He doesn't want us to do a project.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of very specific scenarios where we've had very stressful projects and we're like just praying that the Lord would get us through the day, that the weather would be good or that whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
So just implementing those.
I think the other aspect to that is always a struggle, I think, is finding the balance between being faithful and being prayerful. Because you don't want to, what we're saying, if you want to be prayerful, right? The Lord can do anything, but He's also not saying sit on your butt on the chair and wait for God to do everything. Like that's not how that works. And so I think the key is pray about everything, but also do what you know. And so sometimes you don't know what to do, and then the only option you have is prayer. But you should always be praying, but also
always
be doing.
Start with that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess that's probably the best summary. Yeah, you had a question.
When you're working with a client that's very particular
Mhm.
and they're kind of asking you to redo it a bunch of times,
Yeah.
how do you guys deal with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So how do you deal with clients that are very particular, ask for lots of revisions and drafts, all that kind of thing? We definitely have dealt with our share of that. I will say the key is actually before you even start the project in the prep. So being very clear of what you're creating is important and getting tie-in from all the key leadership. So one of the common things that will happen in commercial context is there's the person who was delegated to go start the project. They tell you 50% of what they probably should have told you. And then in your mind, that's 100% of what they need. And then you go do the project and then they go and show it to the leadership and they're like, well, but we wanted this. And it's like, well, but that's not what you told me you wanted. So including all of any decision, like basically what we say is anyone who wants to have say in the video needs to be in on all the key sign-off meetings. Because then that way, if they weren't there, then we can point them back to the contract and it's like, well, this was the information we were given. So number one would be clarity from who's in the room to tell you. The second would be having a clear scope of work of what you're creating.
And putting that in the contract.
Putting that in the contract, and
The contract is key.
and documenting, like we usually try to reflect back to them. Here's what we heard you said. Is this correct? Is this everything that you want to cover? And then we try to have like key sign-off points so they have a really clear picture of exactly what we're going to create before we even get on set to shoot anything. So like the Riverside County Sheriff's project, the biggest project we ever done, they had 0 notes. They're like, looks good.
At the end.
Yeah, at the end.
There's notes at the beginning. We're talking through pre-production and ideas and thoughts and all that.
So
and that's because they're just an amazing client. But,
right. And you will find the higher dollars, usually the less feedback they have. It's a weird way that things work, but somebody who's paying you $100 to do something will have a lot of edits, and somebody who's paying you, 80, 100,000, oftentimes don't have as much feedback for you. They just trust you to do what you do.
A couple other really quick things on that, and we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but Andrew creates, as part of his creative process, an animatic. So he'll be putting in like potential interview lines, shot lists in a visual format with music. And sometimes we'll show that to the client. So they are like being able to visualize, usually what we've had our clients say, what you made is what you showed me you were going to make.
Yeah.
So we do our best to show them ahead of time before we shoot anything.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I know this was mentioned, contracts, but putting in the rounds of revision in the contract.
Yeah, that's
saying
a good point.
you get 3 rounds of revision, and if you don't respond within 3 days to each round, or whatever, 7 days, whatever you want to say it as, because we've had a lot of times where clients are like a month later, oh, I want to change this now. No, if you don't respond within this amount of whatever you want to give that as,
Yeah.
then we've moved on to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Great question though. Yeah. I think question back there. Yeah.
Yes, so, I was just curious. Sorry, I'm trying to my notes.
No, you're
Okay.
good. You're good.
Okay, so you've got a family of feet.
Mhm.
I heard you earlier say that you had this job and
Yeah.
being an just to reiterate, is that what you're saying? You need to have some kind of full-time work going on because these free things.
Mhm.
They've
Yeah.
done that. It's like I'm doing something free if my child
Yeah.
is starving over here.
Yes.
Not literally, but
Right. Right.
so
Yeah. That's a good clarification.
good job.
Yeah. So the question was, how do you make that transition from working other jobs to doing full time, or am I saying you should have a full time job that helps support while
While
you
you're
do
doing
that?
free
Is
work.
that the question more or less?
The idea is like you could do this and just the starving artist
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
and not have any work going on.
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel good.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. So, and there's actually some statistics to this, and I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. There's actually a really good book, and we have some book recommendations in your sheet.
A lot of the stuff we've learned here is from Real Artists Don't Starve, which is on
Yeah.
your sheet there.
That's a really good
yeah.
book, but he references some statistics in there that a lot of entrepreneurial minded people were just like, I want to go full time. I'm going to just do it. We're going to, we're going to starve, but it's going to be great. And actually the statistics show of, people who work a full-time job and then moonlight on the side of building their creative business to the point where it's enough that they can make that jump, are way more successful than people who quit their day job early and then try to build it to the point where it's going to sustain them. So the recommendation is, especially if you have a family and stuff, like our responsibility first is to our family. I think especially for us as guys who are creatives, we can get all these ideas and it's going to be great, it's going to be awesome, and then we can leave our family behind in that and they make them suffer, and that's just not fair. There is seasons where it's going to be hard, and that's any career. Creative careers can be up and down. You'll have feast and famine, often followed by each other. But yeah, being able to have our recommendation usually is work on the side with your creative business until you have a pretty clear path. Because like we said, building, Do Work, Show Work Network, it takes time to build those relationships. But the cool thing with that versus like paid advertising and those types of things is you're building a longer term relationship that then pays off. So like, PharmaMed is a client we did some of those like cool machine videos for. We met them in like 2016. They didn't initially need they were going to do a project, but they kind of ended up not, but we kind of stayed in touch. And then I think 3 years later, it might have been more than that.
3 or 4 years later.
I think it was like 2019 or 2020, then they came back to us. And at that point, we were even better, so we could do even better work for them. But that relationship is ongoing to this day, where we did a whole rebrand for them. We did a new website. We did all these films, and we're doing a film. We met with them last week to do another series of films for them. So you're kind of building like a more firm foundation to have those ongoing relationships with clients. So.
And just one more note on the transition from doing other jobs, it can be a really scary jump. Like you feel like you're going off a cliff because you're only one person. And so if you're working a full-time job and doing something else on the side, there comes a point where it takes up all your time.
Yeah.
And to make the leap, like let's say you're doing 50-50, well, you're still only 50% in the creative world. You're not fully there yet. You don't have all the answers and all the money coming in. So it can be that scary jump. But I think that's, again, where prayer comes in, of like God showing you the wisdom of when that timing is. Because we saw so many ways, like once Andrew had taken the leap and then a few years later we got married and whatever, like we saw God providing over and over, even just in ways outside of work, like with housing and with other things. Like God brought that in when we were like not expecting it. So he will guide in that timing as well.
Yeah. Did that answer your question? It's hard. I can't give you a specific what to do necessarily. I don't know your situation enough, but yeah, it's hard to do both, and it's not where you want to be long term. But if you could, but it's the most stable transition, I think, between the two. So, yeah, you had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering if y'all have any people in y'all's company that are W-2 or if y'all just do 1099s.
Yeah, great question. What do we do, 1099s or W-2s for our team? It's both. So it really just depends on what the role is. If they're doing like a lot of if basically what the legal requirement is, and I'm no lawyer, so, but basically the way that I understand it is if they're using your equipment or working in your location, then they need to be W-2. If they are, like a lot of our team is remote, so if they're working on their location with their stuff, like their computers, whatever, we're paying them more, so then we can do a 1099 as a contractor. So it kind of just depends on the relationship. But I think I remember somebody, yeah, you had a question over here.
What's the audition process for those types of films?
Yeah, it really is
Do you
not.
want to act in it?
Yeah,
repeat the
oh
question.
yeah, the audition process for like promotional type work. It's really no different. The only difference is usually a lot of times we're not flying people in as much because the just budgets are not as high as if you're doing like a big feature or something like that.
And
But it
a
depends.
lot of the promotional work that we've done, at least, we're using people from the company.
Yeah,
That
real
like
people.
as the police officers are themselves.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing that. Now there was one project that we did where we had a car crash and we needed a girl to be the victim of the car crash, and we did the makeup and the blood and all. It was really fun to like put that scene together. But it was somebody we knew who was local to that area.
Yeah.
And so there definitely are lots of times where we do need to like bring in somebody to play a role or whatever. But a lot of times it is the people who are part of the company, depending on how narrative it is.
In terms of the audition process itself, it's really the same. It's just the project you're going to be in is going to be like 3 minutes long, or something like that. So I think
over there.
somebody else had a question over here I wanted to get to. Yes.
So about the whole don't quit your day job thing.
Yeah.
How would you approach that for someone who does not yet have a day job, who is graduating high school?
Yes. It's a great question. So yeah, if you don't yet have a day job, what is the question more like? What type of day job would be beneficial?
Should I go find should I go to film school? Should I go find work at Chick-fil-A?
Sure.
Get a day
Yeah.
job and then
Yeah.
start transitioning, or should I,
Yeah, so the question is, we just have to repeat it for the microphones. The question is, if you're still in high school or whatever, should you go find a day job or should you start work? Now, one thing I want to say real quick, you may have thoughts on this too, is take advantage of the time that you're living at home.
Mm-hmm.
So
Way
when
easier.
Andrew went full time, he was still living at home.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, I was never home, but I was technically living at
yes, well, he traveled a lot for work.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to like pay
Yep.
rent and do all these things. Take advantage of that time. You could just go all out in making projects, doing work, showing work, networking, all those things. This is a season of life where you don't have the responsibilities as much of like marriage and kids and rent and all those things. So that was one quick thought: is take advantage of that time to doing the work. I don't know if you have anything
I
to
would
add.
say it really just depends on your situation financially. If you need to have income immediately, then getting, just a job, it can be really anything. So ideally something that's fairly schedule flexible. But yeah, if you have the opportunity, film school is helpful for some people, but not recommended for most, I would say. Depending on what doctors, lawyers probably recommend going to college or school for that. But for creatives, it's really do work, show work, network. It's the same thing no matter where you are. So
Neither of us have a degree.
we didn't go to college, didn't go to film school. Most of the people we hire, we don't care if they went to school or not for the thing. It's really just about what have I seen that they've done, and if they've done good stuff, or I can tell that they have. Because you can tell when somebody wants it too, and they're willing to work for it. I think a lot of times people go to film school because they don't have motivation to do it on their own. And again, that's a very broad statement. There's a lot of great people that can do it too. But if you're looking for film school to give you motivation, that's probably not going to really help. Imagine, if you're going to spend 6 figures on a film school, find somebody here you look up to and pay them $5,000, fraction of that, and they'd be happy to sit down and talk to you and mentor you for, you're paying for their time value. A lot of them would totally do it for free. But I don't know if that answered your question. Okay.
So I have a comment.
Yeah.
I'm the parent of, not her, but the daughter
Yes.
that's here for
Yeah.
the same purpose. And at the film school that's nearest us, it's one of the top 25 in the
Yeah.
nation. Every person that I've talked to that's in the film industry that came out of that,
Yeah.
they said I literally only went like half the program,
Yeah.
a third of the program, and then finishing the program, I had to like do all these projects and then
Yeah.
just try to do my work online.
Yep.
For them, it was because that's where they met the industry leaders that were coming to the university to
Yep.
collaborate. And so for
100%.
them, that was their networking.
Yep.
And so, like, I'm in the same boat as a parent.
Yeah.
She is. I'm trying to bypass that. First
Mhm.
of all, it's a secular
Yeah.
university, so
Yep.
I don't want her to have to deal with all the content that
Yeah.
all the other students are promoting or producing. So
Totally. Yeah. No, and that's often the biggest thing that people do take away is the networking, like you said, and the
film
connections from film school. I don't know if it's worth paying 6 figures for that, but you know, I mean, it could be. Maybe that's your only
and speaking
opportunity.
about film school, I think you brought up a good point too of the content.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to a secular university, like in the arts and in the creative space, there's a lot of really bad content. So that's another huge thing to consider.
It may not be
with
your main
film
network.
school.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it.
So my question is how, when you're making a transition,
Yeah.
you're about to make a pretty big transition.
Yeah.
Full time
Yep.
media creation, but part time.
Yeah.
How do you keep morale up?
Yes.
You've made that decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you're thinking through the logistics.
Yeah.
The actual following through on that.
Okay, so yeah, so the question is, you know, you're about to make the jump to full time. How do you keep your morale up while doing that? It can be kind of a lonely path at times. You don't, especially if you're used to working in an office and all of a sudden you're sitting at home. Feels oddly like when you're not working. Yeah, it's a great question, honestly. And I think the biggest thing is maintaining a community of people. And so that you can kind of like feed off each other. I know for me that was huge. I lived in, you know, Fargo, North Dakota, 5.5 hours away from anyone that I knew that was also interested in film. And so online is huge, just being able to network with people and like stay active. And I think the other aspect is at least for me, I'm very driven by what I want to accomplish. And so if you don't have a clear idea of what you want to do, going full-time doing kind of just whatever is probably not a great strategy. So I think having some pretty clear goals, and I would try to put together sort of like have clear steps of how to get there. You know, if you want to be here, it's helpful to know that goal, but you need to know what the steps and the rungs are to get there, probably before you jump into it, ideally. I don't know if you have any
And doing
additional
some
thoughts.
projects for fun too, like
Yeah.
that keeps
Yeah.
you excited about the work you're doing. You know, like when Andrew said,
Yeah.
"Oh, I always want to do stuff with law enforcement." Well, we're doing a competition. Let's go see if they'll want us to do it for them.
Yep.
You know, finding things that keep you going and excited about what you're doing,
Mhm.
because when it goes from a hobby to full time, it can be like, "I don't want to see a camera again. I'm tired of this." You know,
Yeah.
you can have moments like that, right?
Yeah.
But keep on doing stuff that you're like excited about. And I think community, what he was
Mm.
saying is huge. Like budget that. You know, to go to film festivals, to go to places, to, you know, do projects with friends, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I
That
think
can really help keep you going.
the other aspect of community is surround yourself ideally with people who are better than you.
Yeah.
It's easy to find people who are like you, which is not a bad thing at all. You need that too, but you're going to be basically the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so if those people are better, you want to feel kind of small in the room, you know, ideally, and then you just pick up so much from that kind of environment. So, yeah. I know we're probably close on time here, but
We're
if
over
you
by
want.
5.
Yeah, okay, one more. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, thank you so much for Film Class in a Box.
Oh, good. Yeah.
It's amazing. My family went through it, and I learned a lot.
Awesome. Glad to hear it.
That's wonderful.
Like creative, but I'm finding out I'm creative as well.
Yeah.
Class is amazing.
That's great to hear.
And two, for the young lady's question.
Yeah.
Did y'all pay the actress that was bruised up?
Yeah.
And did you pay the cops? Were they all?
Sure.
volunteers?
That's a great
That's a really
question.
good
So,
question. Repeat the question.
yeah, first of all, thanks I'm glad you went through Film Class in a Box. It's one of our like beginner courses, and it's a whole lot of fun. So glad it was helpful. Second question is, did we pay the actors that worked in some of the law enforcement films?
And the law enforcement themselves.
In the law enforcement themselves. So the nice thing about working with law enforcement, so in terms all of that budget for all of their people to be there, they're on duty basically, but not on call. So they're getting paid by the department. So we've had like, I think the last film we had 80 different people or something from the department of 4,000. So they had plenty, but, and they're just all getting paid through the department.
We work very closely with our clients
Yeah.
for their managing their employees.
Yep.
So if we say, hey, we need 3 people to interview, we need 10 people in this car chase, et cetera,
Yeah.
they say, okay, here's who I think would be good for that. They help to line them up. The clients we work with are essentially like co-producing the project to some
Right.
degree.
We try to set that expectation too up front so they're not
Yes,
surprised.
because we can't be the ones to tell employees when and where to be the same way that their boss can.
Yeah. And the same if it's non-law enforcement.
Yes.
Usually just it's, you know, they're getting paid by their company. Maybe it's overtime or something.
Now, if we bring in somebody specific
Yeah.
that we want to act, like when we did the seminary film,
Yeah.
the narrative seminary film, we needed a main character who played this character through the whole film. We paid them to come in, we provided their food and lodging, all of that was part of the
Wardrobe,
project
the whole
budget.
works. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So if we're bringing somebody in, we pay them. If they're an employee of the client, we don't pay them.
yeah. Yeah. So awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. Hopefully that was helpful. And
Thank you.
yeah. Awesome.
And we'll be around too if anybody has more
Yeah.
questions. We'll stick around here for a little bit. So.
All right. Well, thank you.